Welcome to Deal Nation. On the show today, we're joined by Bobby Triplett, the Senior Vice President of Renovations at OfferPad. Bobby, how are you?
Hey, great, man. Thanks for having me, Michael. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and I I feel like this is kind of a running theme the last few weeks because we all just got back from a pretty big mastermind event. But
Yeah.
you and I are involved in a mastermind together, family mastermind. And I got a glimpse at what you guys are doing at OfferPad, and I was really intrigued by the role that you fill in that process of just kind of really connecting the not just the acquisition of a property, but then
Sure.
what happens to that property, getting it renovated, getting it ready to sell. So really excited to kind of dive into not only OfferPad but your specific role within the company. But first, we love to start with an origin story on Deal Nation, kind of
Yeah.
get what got everybody into real estate investment. So give us kind of the quick hop, skip, and a jump to where you
Yeah.
are
I
today.
mean, it was definitely not a planned path. I was going in a former life. I was a minister for 15 years and had some life change that was happening, and stepped out of doing that. And a good friend of mine was the president of Invitation Homes Florida, and he's like, Bobby, I just need a leader on the renovation side. Can you come basically fake it till you make it, let your leadership stuff come? And I was like, all right, here we go. We're going to hit a little bit of a reset button. And over a decade later, it has been an incredible ride in this industry.
When you came in at that point, were you a guy that knew how to swing a hammer,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. I had worked, doing nonprofit like missions organizations, where you're bringing in kind of like Habitat for Humanity type projects. And as a pastor, helped build 2 churches, literally and physically,
Oh, well.
and that's been, I've always been handy, so to speak, been not afraid to get my hands dirty out there. But from the art of negotiating the contracts and the suppliers and vendors and escalations, it was more leaning into the leadership giftings or the styles or the trainings that I'd had for the 15 years prior to that.
Sure. And then in terms of kind of taking that and then putting that into the business model for OfferPad, can you kind of give everybody just like a quick kind of breakdown if they're not aware of
Sure.
OfferPad and what you guys do, kind of
Yeah.
what the macro is, and then the micro of where you
Sure.
focus.
On the bigger picture, we're what's called an iBuyer. We're a publicly traded company or instant buyer, where we buy, renovate, and sell thousands of homes. We give people a cash offer if you go to OfferPad.com. And it's a great solution and an alternative to the traditional way of real estating. On top of that, we're a solution center, both from mortgage connection, investor relationships, agent partnerships around the country, and then my team, which is the renovation. So I renovate thousands of our own homes every year. And then in the last few years, the service offering is we're able to offer renovation solutions to REOs, REITs, institutionals, private single family rentals. And in the last probably year or so, really working closely with a lot of the folks that are at family and other masterminds like that, offering them the opportunity to scale their renovation operations without having to go hire a me and all my teams. You know what I mean? They can partner with us, and it's been exciting.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting, and a lot of the audience here for Deal Nation is focused largely on the acquisition side, right? They're acquiring and wholesaling or wholetailing properties, and that pipeline of the people that are actually doing the renovating is a separate pipeline, and often the pipeline of who's selling the property is a separate pipeline. So you've got different subject matter experts essentially in each of the pipelines. And people that get to a really advanced stage might get to the point where they're purchasing the property, holding it, renovating it, and maybe even selling it themselves without kind of going through more of an MLS route. But that isn't something that is done often at a high level of scale. So you guys are able to fill each one of those pipelines at a very high level of scale.
Yes, sir. Yeah, in our teams, that we have different divisions, whether it's pricings, acquisition, renovations, and dispo. I mean, we have learned the hard way, and over the last 9 years, how to work hand in glove so that we're making the right real estate decision on each property, and then combining that or checking and balancing that against, hey, what's the desired comp level we're trying to renovate to, what's the market saying, and then who's our ideal customer on the resale side. It's been interesting too, because of these kind of three different expertise within our company, the amount of investors we've been able to partner with from an acquisition side, and the amount of wholesalers that we're able to work with from a sourcing side. For us, it's been a lot of fun. It's been exciting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is really interesting to me, and I think to the audience, is what people are really looking for is efficiency, right?
Sure.
Like, so I was talking to a guest recently, and they're running an investing business is like one of the three things that they do, doing maybe like 10 to 15 wholesale deals a month, and spending 4 to 6 hours a week on that business. You can only get to the point where you're spending 4 to 6 hours a week on a 10 to 15 per month, 10 to 15 deal per month business if you're hyper efficient.
Sure.
Right? And so most people that are listening to the show are looking to be able to operate at scale and do a higher number of deals. So plugging into systems like the one that you have, I think, is a really interesting way to do a lot more deals over the course of the year, and maybe even diversify your portfolio a little bit. So
Sure.
can you kind of talk about just using the wholesaler use case and how you guys work with wholesalers and what some of the benefits of that are?
Well, two ways. One, for us on a sourcing side, our acquisition appetite is pretty aggressive, and so trying to find the right deals in our right buy boxes in the markets that we're acquiring. We have a whole part of the team that works directly with wholesalers to see, like, hey, is this the right product for us to buy? It's an option, you know what I mean? But from my side of the business, on the renovation side, where we're helping wholesalers, is, hey, there's a few deals that, man, our ROI could be significantly greater if we decide to take it down and flip it, especially in the current market conditions that are there. But the big question mark is like, well, I don't have contractors, or I don't have trusted subs, or I don't know what I'm looking at, or, man, how do I know this is the right deal? And when we're talking about efficiency for us, because we do this at scale, thousands and thousands of these renovation flips a year, we've already got the trusted vendor partners, and because we're publicly traded, we have the highest level of insurance requirements and licenses that we're requiring across. So we're minimizing the risk, both with our wholesaling partners who are now taking down properties. But instead of having to try to go be an expert, or trying to get a big payroll of renovation experts to do this, I'm a huge believer in strategic partnerships, because then I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I just got to be the smartest at what I'm doing. And same thing for your listeners and your guests. Instead of trying to feel like they are so efficient or they've got it all figured out that they only can, they're allowed to just spend 4 to 6 hours a week on a business. Now, because they're partnering, they're maximizing their time allotment, because they're saying, hey, listen, we know that you can do it faster, better, or cheaper. So we're going to hand you the project, and you're going to give us back with a bow on it. And then we'll go, take it and do with it what we know to be best, which I love that.
So let's talk about, I do too, and I'd love to focus on a couple things, or shine a light on a couple things. Let's talk about one, timeline, and then 2, capital.
Yeah.
So timeline. And I understand that this is heavily subjective,
Sure.
but let's say that we have a property that I bring you as a wholesaler, and a property, it's not a wholesale deal, but it's not that far off. It's certainly not a gut job, right? And it's in a market that you guys are active in. So for your team, what's the timeline like from going from evaluation to bow?
I mean, that depends. It depends mostly on the seller, right, and what their timeline is. But for us to acquire that property, and I'm going to speak in generalities because I am not the expert of that team, right?
Of course,
You know,
of course.
it's the introduction. It's us getting our inspection. And as soon as, you know, the seller, or we know when they're ready to get rid of it, you're ready to dispose of it, then faster is better for us, typically, once we've done our due diligence. If it's one that you're taking down yourself, it could be in a matter of, less than a week that you've got a detailed scope of work from us. And then as soon as you have acquired the house, it's go time within 24 hours. That's one of the things that I talk about all the time about controlling what you can control. And for me, because I have such a big vendor base and because I've got a lot of trusted subcontractors that work with my project managers all over the country, it's not like, all right, Michael, we'll squeeze you in here in 3 weeks. And then now you see your ROI going to the floor because, time is money. I'm wearing a t-shirt that every day matters. And in my opinion, like in real estate, that's even more so true. And for us, our team, we're marching to that banner of like, hey, what I can't control is what rates are doing. What I can't control is what inflation or tariff or politics or whoever. What I can control is how I manage this day. So if I could start fast, do it right, we're minimizing lost days, we're minimizing overhead, HOA fees or utility cost or debt. And that's one of the ways that I think that my team directly is able to impact not only our bottom line as a publicly traded company, but probably 50 other bottom lines around the country as a strategic partner.
Yeah, and so just to make, cause I'm a rookie here, so I'm gonna ask the basic questions, right? But in terms of like you get a scope, right? You said like 24 hours, maybe get a scope. Who's paying for the renovations? Where's the capital coming from?
The capital's come from the owner. Like, well, if it's ours, and we're publicly traded, so we're our own capital. If we own the home.
Exactly.
Now, if it's you and it's your house and you're taking it down, or some of them are coming from hard money lenders, some are coming from private capital. But we would have treated you, Michael, or your guest as the client. And so that client is paying for it. Now we're managing it all the way through. And what's pretty great is a lot of times before we receive final payment from our client, like we've already paid out all of our subs, we've already purchased our materials, because we have national buying power, wholesale opportunities when it comes to flooring and paint and things like that can directly benefit the ROI of the new owner of the home.
Sure. So there are a couple of avenues then, right? So I'm sticking mainly with this use case if somebody brings a property to you, not an actual like owner of the home.
Okay.
Because that's typically our audience is going to be that person.
Right.
So there's a couple of paths that they could potentially take. One would be like the easiest path, I suppose, which would be they're just taking, the cash offer from you guys,
correct,
for that house, and then washing their hands of it, and then you all take it from there, and you're gonna get profit based off of your own efficiency and in the end your own exit strategy.
Correct.
Or they could potentially almost use you as like a contracting arm where they're able to bring it in, pay for the services, and then I assume you guys probably get a cut of the exit result.
Nope.
But nope. Okay.
No, just using us as basically as like a renovation services as a service, and then we put it back with a bow on, and then your exit strategy as the client is there. And our hope is that you're maximizing your ROI, not because I'm taking a cut of it, but because I want you to use it again on the next one.
Man, there's a couple of use cases like within the Deal Nation audience where I think that's just fire, really.
Yeah.
Where
because it's frustrating, Michael. Like it's super frustrating. Every time I go and speak or I get invited to be on a podcast like yours, the amount of like horror stories, because they're probably incredibly good at sourcing the deal, but don't know where to begin to start, or maybe did it once or twice, but didn't find efficiency. And
and like I asked you the question about swinging a hammer early on, right? Because a lot of people that are really great at real estate transactions, they don't necessarily have that skill set. And there are so many stories of people that say, I tried to do it all myself. I tried to cut costs. It ended up into being a money pit and a time suck. And I wish I hadn't have done it. Right. Like there's that story that's told ad nauseum.
Yeah. for sure.
So like the two use cases that I was thinking of one in particular, on the sense of just using your team as a contracting service.
Right.
There was a investor that Launch Control was working with out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and they did 3 to 4 projects per year, not because that was how many homes they could purchase, but because that's what they had the bandwidth to purchase, renovate, sell, right? And they were doing, I think their average take on each one of those projects was like $250,000 because it's San Francisco, right? So they're high price point. Yeah. So they were doing a 7-figure business even off of like 4 or 5 deals per year. But partnering that with you guys and being able to do 10 deals, because if they've got the capital to fund 10 deals, run it through you guys, the volume goes through the roof. You know, you're talking about going from a $1.5 million a year business to like a $6 million a year business.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. And that's what we've helped another number of our clients too, where, hey, they're owning, I was on a call with a great client of ours out of the St. Louis area, specializing in affordable homes, Section 8 voucher-based portfolio. And they were able to go out and raise a bunch of capital based partly on the partnership with us doing their renovations. So now any market that I'm in, which is 26 of them, 16 states, we're now swinging hammers to renovate their new scattered site portfolio. So they started in St. Louis, and I've done it in Ohio for them, and in Florida, and Georgia, and Tennessee. And like, they don't have to have boots on the ground in those markets because they have me and my boots on the ground, and they're my employees that are there. So that's been kind of another cool avenue is, hey, I would love to have done that deal in Charlotte, but I don't know anybody in Charlotte. Well, now you do, you know what I mean? And I love watching people's businesses grow as a result of a small part we get to play in them.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys potentially solve for people 2 of the most common things that eliminate deals, which are, as you said, boots on the ground, and the other is margins. Right. So you look at a property, you're like, I can't get a 30% take on this one. So the margins aren't quite there. I'm just going to have to let this go, or maybe try to partner up with a realtor. Maybe the realtor will take a look at it, but if it still needs work, probably not. So you get a bunch of these deals that come into a place where like the homeowner is just not going to take the margins that you want. But if you were to drop, I don't know, 10K into it, you could sell it for 50,000 more, right? And if you can work with someone like your team, you can work with your team, and you can turn that around in a matter of a couple of months.
Than that. Like our averages for it, and certain markets and I'll put whatever lawyer speak caveat, permitting and municipality participation, subject to. But typically for every $1,000 in spend, I'm in and out of that in a day. So if it's a $10,000 job, I'm getting back to you in 10 days or less. If it's a $30,000 job, 30 days less. And I'm talking complete. And almost 40,000 homes that we've done, I'm nothing if I'm not consistent. And that's where we land. And some of my teams are even faster than that, which is incredible. That's just more the average. And, because when you're talking about the deals, both those 2 factors, I think the other one is speed. And in construction or renovation, they call it the golden triangle: speed, quality, and cost. And you typically only get 2 of the 3. So if you want it fast, you're typically paying more, you know what I mean? And maybe, to get that higher quality. If you want it higher quality, you're not going to get it for fast. You know what I mean? You're definitely not getting it for cheap. For us, we do, I focus specifically on speed and quality. One, because if you get it done right the first time, that's the best option. And if I can get it faster, but I usually get 2.5 out of the 3 because of what my spend is a year. You know what I mean? Because I'm doing high volume. I feel like that's the one X factor, both, in deals, no matter what, that really can help pencil out the flip or the takedown of that property, is if there is an opportunity to really, dictate price or have controlled costs, as opposed to like, well, one day it's $3 a square foot, and tomorrow the guy's got to pay for his boat, so it's $5 a square foot. You know what I mean? So, and having predictable strategic pricing that now can inform underwriters, and then and then you've got it in writing that, hey, this is what we're doing together. Like, man, that takes the question mark out of it.
Yeah, and you don't have to wear so many hats. Like, this is a kind of a tangential analogy, but it's also works.
Yeah.
At Launch Control, the SMS engagement platform, we have a done for you service called Launch Leads, and we do all of the text engagement for people. And the way that you would have to do it yourself would be, you'd have to hire a VA or a stateside staff person. You'd have to train that person. You'd have to monitor their work and manage their work. And when they eventually leave, because they're going to go to a higher paid or higher or more challenging position, you're gonna have to start over, and you're gonna have to do all of that over again. And so it's your management, your networking, your recruiting, you're doing all of that. Or you could just say, let Launch Leads do it. And if there's attrition, we make up for that attrition, so you're able to take that hat off, give it to someone else, and just focus on acquisitions. You guys offer the same thing. We're like, look, like if I'm gonna expand out and I want to go from, I'm doing mostly purchasing around Atlanta, and I want to get into like the North Florida market because I see some opportunities, and I don't have boots on the ground, like you said. Now I have to go into the masterminds. I have to go into the Facebook groups. I have to say, hey guys, I've got some projects in North Florida that I'm looking to do in the next 6 months. Who's got contractors I can work with? Who do you trust? Then you have to vet those people in a live fire situation, which might cost you more money than what was on that scope. So like the risk profile goes way, way, way up when you're doing it yourself. Whereas, I mean, you've got like a literal army of hammers being swung around the country.
Yeah, and we'll tell you, we have, I would say, like a library of knowledge about what not to do or who not to work with, which is almost as important as knowing what to do. We've stubbed our toe 100 ways to Sunday, and before we found out the right formula in the last decade of doing this. And man, if I could save somebody the pain, both financially and mentally and hairline wise, whatever you want to call it, like that's a big deal to me too.
For sure. So just out of curiosity, like how many hammers do you have in the field right now? Like how many?
Yeah, so I've got just shy of 40 project managers. Probably I would say between 25 and 30 W-2 hammers, and then 1,500 subcontractors, suppliers, specialty trades, vendors that work like not exclusively, but predominantly just for us around the country. So in any given market, I've got the top 3 HVAC guys that work in this space that would pick up my call, or the top 3 flooring suppliers. We work with companies like Mohawk Flooring. We have an exclusive deal with PPG Paints. So my product is warehoused all over the country, so we're not even waiting on supply. And then being able to pick up a phone is pretty incredible. And what I love more than anything, like I'll preach all the time, Michael, to our team, like leave it better than you found it. And I don't just mean the house, which I do, but I'm talking about the investor partners that we're working with, the clients, their internal colleagues, but even our vendor partners. Like if I can pay my vendors fast and fair, right, then they're going to always want to be around. And if I do it in such a way that I'm not having to yell and scream and kick, but we're doing it because we understand how to do this correctly. I love watching those vendors grow as well. They went from 1 truck to maybe 2 or 3, or they went from 1 crew to 4, and having great relationships with all my different contractors around the country is exciting. Knowing that I put their kids through college, right, or I help them expand their fleet, like I love that. And selfishly, like that helps buy me loyalty, but from an intrinsic human side, like I love seeing other people flourish too. And if working alongside me helps you flourish, well, that's going to make you want to work alongside me more, and me, you know what I mean? Which I love that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it gives people the opportunity to piggyback off of your scalability. So that's why I was asking the question about like how many hammers you have in the field, because it obviously you're not going to go into your email inbox right now and look through 1,500 emails from 15 different 1,500 different contractors. Like, you guys have systems in place which will allow you to do this at scale. So like, I remember this probably like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was talking to one of the launch control subscribers working out of the Phoenix market.
Yeah.
And he had been sending text messages to a guy in one of the neighborhoods in Phoenix for, I don't know, probably a couple of months, just going back and forth. And got the guy on the phone, talking to him, and he was like, look, I'll sell you this house. I'll take this amount of money for it, but I have 14 other homes. I'll give you a better deal if you can make an offer on all 15 houses. And he was like, oh, okay. Right. So he put in offers, and he bought to wholesale just to, flip them over, 15 houses. But imagine in that scenario, if he could have taken, say, like 7 of the 15 and went, you know what, of these, they all need less than $25,000 in repairs, I think. And we could probably just like flip these and get more out of them. And then if he could just offload those to your team, and like you said, what is it, a day for $1,000? Like you'd end up being able to truly flip those, fix and flip those in a fairly short amount of time. So what would the profit structure be on those 15 houses if you had that pivot opportunity?
For sure. And not even just that, you think about like professional clout that can come from that guy to say, oh no, I have an incredible GC. Well, man, this guy over here, he does great. Like his product comes out, and now all of a sudden his deal flow starts getting even bigger. You know what I mean? Like, because of a strategic partnership on one side. And I think that's the thing I love about it. I was literally in Phoenix this week. That's where our headquarters is. And one of my clients, who does predominantly all work in the Carolinas, but he lives in Phoenix. We had a couple margaritas and some tacos, just as wanted to break some bread together. And
as you do in Phoenix.
Yeah, as you do, right? And he's like, this is a no-brainer. He's like, the amount of deals I'm able to get done without having to pull my hair out. He's like, it's fair price. You guys communicate. Like, I feel like you're there for me. And like, I was puffing my chest out, man. I felt so good because he's just like offering these beautiful compliments because they were based in reality of what we've been doing. And like, that's what I love. And if he feels confident to be able to do that because he's confident in his renovation solution, which is us, then like, let's go. Sky's the limit for everybody.
Yeah. And look, I mean, there are different personality profiles, right? Like, growing up, my mom and dad always bought the ugliest house on the block and made it the prettiest house. Like, both of my parents, but my dad in particular is like wildly talented at that. And he finds joy in it. He likes getting in there. He likes doing the work. And so, flipping a house would be kind of equal parts financially motivated and just the joy of getting in there and doing it. Right. But I would say the vast majority of people that are professional real estate investors are in this to run a really efficient business. And if they can avoid getting their hands dirty, if they can avoid it's time. Exactly. Like, what they're in this for is to run a highly profitable business that allows them to have additional freedom of time. Like, they're not trying to hammer every nail and screw every screw and cut every board, right? Because unless they find great joy in that, it takes a whole bunch of time.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
So are you fairly headquartered, or are you popping all around the country? Like,
I'm on an airplane, I feel like at least 3 times a month. So I've got directors of each one of the states that we're in. And then those directors have, 2 to 5 project managers strategically hired around the cities that we do business in. And as we partner with clients, like, I want to make sure that my field teams understand what the win for those different clients is. So I'm walking houses a lot. Both with the new clients and with my team to make sure it's translated. And then, making sure my people have the resources that they need in the field to be the solution that I'm promising to everybody. But yeah, we're all over. In a couple of weeks, I'll be in St. Louis, and then I'll be in Dallas, and then I'll be in Miami. Like, I'm all over the place. I was just literally got back last night. Yeah.
Like, on a personal level, like, is it enjoyable? Like, flying into Dallas, I don't know, going to a steakhouse, going to Miami, getting a Cuban, or
Yeah.
is it like a drag being away from
No,
family?
I'm a very outgoing. I'm a people person, and food, good booze, and a good cigar. Those are my love languages. So what's
Yes.
great about it, I do have young kids here, and I'm out of the Tampa area. I get to, I'm dictating my schedule when I do. So it's usually not more than 2, maybe 3 nights at a time that I'm gone. If it was the full week, that would be a different story. But speaking of time, like if I'm there, I'm go, go, go. My calendar's packed. I'm meeting a couple clients. I'm walking a house. I'm not sitting in a hotel room. And then I'll try to maximize, hey, let's grab a dinner, let's grab a drink, or let's grab a cigar afterwards to talk business, or to invest into my people while I'm there. And so there's sprints, not marathons on those. And I have a blast. I am always happy to be home when I get home. I enjoy it while I'm there. But even yesterday, driving back from the airport, I was like, rolled down the windows. I'm like, it's good to be home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, in my personal life, I travel quite a bit. And
Right.
one of the things that I really try to do is have a home to go back to when I want
Sure.
to, so that
Yeah.
if like I was just in Florida, we both were for that mastermind,
Yeah.
picked up some good whiskey and some good cigars. And so to
Yeah.
be able to just be home and have that Friday night, just cause
Yeah.
you got to have that even when you're
There you go, my friend. Man
bouncing
after my
around.
own heart right there. Man after my own heart.
In terms of in terms of like I think I told you a little bit about the launch control community, or the
Sure.
Deal Nation community, really. But let me break it down into kind of 3 tiers, and then from those 3 tiers, maybe get some advice from you on how people might be able to work with you. Sound good?
Good.
All right. So the launch control subscriptions, which Light, Core, and Pro, or Pro and Enterprise, basically follow the upward trajectory of an wholesale investing business. So if people that are on our Light package, they're strictly doing wholesale deals, and they're looking or wholesale deals, excuse me, and they're looking for consistency in their business, right? So because they're building capital, they don't have a lot of capital yet. So they're building up that capital to get themselves opportunities to either scale their business or diversify their portfolios.
Okay.
People that are in the middle group, the core group, they're usually they got a BA on staff, or they're outsourcing to launch leads. They're processing more deals as wholesale deals, and they're really probably starting to get quite curious about where else could I invest my money. And then the Pro and Enterprise, they're already they run teams, and they're already somewhat diversified. So they probably got a couple of rentals. They probably take on at least a handful of fix and flips themselves every year, but the core capital generation is still coming through wholesaling. So for those 3 groups, like what would your kind of one-on-one with each of them be?
Yeah, the first off is to see like what is their appetite, what is their their even desire to start dipping a toe in there. Obviously the core and then that enterprise group that you're talking about at the top, like they're probably familiar, they've probably done it, they probably stubbed their toe, or they've had some success and they want to.
Sure.
Like my hope is like if I can help you scale it, so which will allow you to do what you do best, more efficiently, then I think there's definitely an opportunity that we should talk about. If it's somebody even on the front side, like we work with a number of hard money lenders that they refer all of their new borrowers in markets that we operate to us, because like, hey, we'd love to give you a risk-free renovation solution. One, for them, because it's better for their capital,
Sure.
and 2, for the borrower, that man, if this is not as painful, if this is not as frustrating, then maybe they'll borrow again, maybe if it's successful. And so it's definitely worth the conversation.
No, that makes perfect sense. That's a logical move from the hard money side, for sure.
Yeah, which has been a lot of fun, because then in this space, like over the last couple of years, I went from working from strictly institutional, the biggest REITs that are out there, the biggest SFRs that are out there, biggest iBuyers. And in the last 2 years, really finding like a mutually beneficial partnership with the private shops, the hard money lenders, the mid-size single family rentals. And I'm having so much more fun, I'll be honest with you, because you're able to see the change you're affecting.
I love to hear it, because you and I were talking about this pre-show a little bit. And like I do a bit of investing now, but I came into this industry cold. I came into it
Sure.
from a sales and marketing perspective,
Sure.
and like building sales funnels, building up marketing teams. I didn't come into it the reverse as
Right.
being like a 7-figure investor that also started doing this stuff, right?
Right.
So it gives me a bit of like an outside looking in perspective sometimes. And one of the things that really caught my attention early was the fact that, like, on a wholesaling level, you've got people that are putting a huge amount of effort into lead generation, and they're sending out text messages and
Sure.
direct mail pieces, and they're trying to get to sellers so that they can have that discovery call level conversation, hopefully get a place under contract, and then send an email blast to 300 buyers and say, does anyone want this? Right?
Right.
There's that the sophistication kind of in some cases goes out the window, where they not necessarily having, like, outside of wholesaling a bunch of exit strategies potentially in mind, not having go to fix and flippers or buyers that you're working with on a regular repetitive
Right.
basis, not sourcing deals that they're looking for so that that you have a ready to go buyer when you find to that property that they're looking
Right.
for in the next 60 to 90. So there's just, for me, on the disposition side, there was always this kind of gap where people in your role were not really talking to the single
Sure.
shop wholesalers as much.
No,
and
not at
and I
all.
not at all, or not at all. And I feel like that is a huge opportunity for, better networking equals more money,
I
right?
totally agree. I totally agree. And like it kind of in the last year or two, where a lot of the major institutions have completely or almost completely pumped the brakes on acquisition, it's given the wholesalers and the private investors an opportunity at the good stuff that normally get gobbled up faster by big hedge fund money or big REIT money. And it's been exciting to see a different kind of growth happening. So yeah.
When you guys are selling a property, right, a post renovation, like, okay, but let's do it in the way in which I bring you a property, right?
Sure.
So I bring you a property, and I'm going to pay for the renovations, right?
Right.
And get work with your team. Who's then taking over to get that property sold?
Typically it's the client's responsibility. They already have agents that they're working with. If they're wanting us to connect them with some of our agent partners, we absolutely can.
Okay.
More on a referral type of business there, but like there's that opportunity as well to be able to list your home through OfferPad.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because I like another angle that I could see where I mean, you could do this directly, but it would also be an opportunity via wholesalers. Be like, if a wholesaler is really networking and working their opportunities with real estate agents who often have edge case properties, something's
Sure.
about to go onto the,
Yeah.
they're just unable to turn it over in 4 to 6 months or whatever, right? And really what that property most likely needs is a light renovation that the
Yeah.
homeowner can
Oh
afford
yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to get it ready. So, if it's basically, you're saying that the realtor comes to me and says, look, I've got these 3 properties. They both need less than $30,000 in renovation. Are you interested in working with me on these to get a better deal for the homeowner, right? And then, I buy it for cash. I work it out with the homeowner, buy it for cash, even if the margins are a little less than what I'm used to. I work with your team, get it ready to sell, and then hand it back off to the agent to sell.
There you go.
And you might not make as big of a margin, but the ability to just move the chess pieces around and
Yeah.
profit from that are
Yeah.
pretty easy.
It's pretty exciting for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the way that you guys are connecting the dots. I love how much pressure you're able to take off. Like I said, like I think that the most important element, arguably, of a really high producing real estate investment company is efficiency.
Yep.
Just the more deals you can process, the more money you can make. That sounds super obvious, but in implementation of it is not always obvious. So
Yeah. For sure.
So for everyone listening, how would you suggest that they get in touch with you, with OfferPad, like anything that you want to list out for people to follow up on? Our team is gonna list everything in the episode description, so just get it all out, and we'll make sure it's there for everyone.
The easiest and best way, if you go to offerpad.com/renovate, there's a quick little survey in there to tell us about you and your project, and then we'll schedule a one-on-one consultation. I'd be happy to meet you, and then just talk about, are we the right renovation partner for you, and then how can we achieve that victory for you on your next project. Or you can email directly at renovate@offerpad.com. Either one of those things will help you get in contact with me and my team, and then we'll set up consultations, and we'll move it on from there.
All right, perfect, easy. All right, Bobby. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it, my friend.
Absolutely, really interesting conversation. I think it'll give people a lot of food for thought. So appreciate it.
Hey, great. Right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, talk soon. Bye.